today is just give you a very brief summary of what the Senior Center Ad Hoc Group talked about and recommended to the City Council. They had a meeting a couple of weeks ago on the 12th, I believe, of October, and reviewed some options and information on options for a site for a standalone senior center, and also some information on the was discussed on the commercial kitchen, and then they talked about a recommendation for those, and have since set forward a recommendation on the City Council. And so we've distributed out a packet of that. I'm not sure there's enough for everybody, but there's probably a couple on each table. And Sandy's got some more here. But it's a packet. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation all over again, but this is a summary of the 5 different site proposal options that were presented to the ad hoc group. First one on the first page is the Andrews Park site, and then on the back of that page is the cost estimate, a little bit of detail on the cost estimate for that site location. And then the next one is what we refer to as the L4 site, or it was the 4th library site. There were actually 4 different options, A, B, C, and D. Each of those are different slightly mostly because of the parking that's proposed. The first one, option A, has very little parking available and would require shared parking with the library. If you're glancing at this, the kind of orange or reddish shaded building on the right is the footprint of that is for the proposed central library site. That's the library building, and of course Acre Street is to the south on the bottom of the page, and then the blue shaded space is the space that's the standalone senior center building, and then of course you can see the parking around it. Again, I don't need to explain all of these, but I'll say the option A had very little parking. All the parking, basically, with just a few exceptions for 12 spaces or 15 spaces, it would be shared with the library parking. As it turned out, the committee thought that was a bad idea. It didn't work well. Parking is a major issue. We all realize that, and in fact, the committee ruled that L4A option out. They did not forward that for any consideration. But then the options B, you can see, has a little bit additional parking. It requires the purchase and removal of a couple of extra homes along acres. C requires a little bit less, but still requires purchase. All of these actually require purchase of either condos or apartments or homes, whatever those structures are there under those areas. And D is yet another layout for additional parking. And what the committee voted to do was recommend the L4 sites with the exception of A. So they felt like that was a better location, and either the B, C, or D options were forwarded on to the City Council to be considered further. Another part of that discussion, as I said, was the commercial kitchen facilities. Should they be part of this new facility or not? Kathleen Wilson was at the meeting and indicated that they could continue to operate here as long as they had access to this building, or they could be in the new facility. Either one would work for them. At the end of the discussion, the ad hoc group voted 4-1, I believe, to include the commercial kitchen facilities with a new senior facility, if that were financially feasible. And so that recommendation is on its way to City Council. Along those lines, November the 1st, next Tuesday, is a study session scheduled with City Council, and they'll receive this information as well as information that the city finance staff has put together regarding some funding options that could potentially fund a new senior center. And so they'll be discussing that primarily, along with the recommendations from the ad hoc group on next Tuesday at City Hall. And that's really that. I'll move on, and then I'll stop and listen and take notes. So that's this packet of information. The other thing you have at your place is a summary of all of the program ideas that we have gathered so far. You know, we've had a meeting in here some time ago where we had a flip chart. We wrote down your ideas for programming, things you'd like to see offered at a new facility. And then we've had 2 other public meetings during a design process. They were held at the McFarland Church facility. And we did the same thing. We had flip charts out, and we took comments from people about what you'd like to see included in a new facility. And so this is a summary of those comments. We've taken out the duplicate comments. You know, we didn't want to list them 2 or 3 times if they were mentioned, and there were several that were mentioned at all the meetings. So this is that, and what we wanted to do is provide another opportunity for any more input on this kind of thing. If you all have any other ideas or comments about activities or programs that you would like to see included. And we've got a couple of major steps ahead of us as I see it. One is getting a site selected, and after that is getting the building designed. We're not designing the building yet, but this program information is critical when we get to designing a building and sizing a building, because from this we can go through, or the architects probably can go through and program a building and determine how the building should be laid out and designed to accommodate the list of activities that everybody's interested in doing. So with that, I'll answer any questions, or maybe Art or Nadine, they're both on the committee. If you guys want to add anything, feel free, and we'll just stop and answer a question, take notes, and go from there. Let's start.
I just want to say that you portrayed exactly what the committee recommended, but after some thought, I think I'm speaking for at least Nadine and I think a lot of other seniors that have discussed it, that there's an amendment, addendum to that. I think the city council does not want to exercise eminent domain. And that may be necessary to enable the L4 sites, all 3 or 4 of them. 3 are only left in there, as you said. But if that's true, I think most of us feel that Andrews Park is also an acceptable option. We were just asked to vote what we favored, but we did not mean to eliminate the Andrews Park site.
Sure. Understood.
Now, my understanding is that money is available now to renovate the old library and use it, but there's no money available for any sort of a standalone site. Is that correct?
It's yes and no.
That's, yeah.
Partially correct. It is a 2008 bond issue that was passed that would fund the renovation up to about $4 million roughly.
Of the old library.
Of a portion of the old library. That's not quite enough to do the project. It's about 600,000 or 800,000 short. I don't remember the exact number, but that money was voted on and approved, and those bonds have never been sold.
Right.
But the city has the authority to do that, and so they could move forward with that option, the financing option, if that were the
We we've got the legal authority to do that now.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
I want to add something to that. However, as a taxpayer, if we do that, we that own property are going to be hit with $11.5 million more. Yeah. The bond issue, correct me, the bond issue was for something about 11.5 million. However, only 4 point something was dedicated to the senior center. If we don't put the senior center there, unless there's some change, that the taxpayers, the property owners will not be hit with the 11.5 additional million. So there's two ways to look at it.
The money for new buildings gotta come from somewhere.
Yes, they're cooking lunch.
Can we shut the door? Okay. Yeah, hold on one second.
What? We just need one open, right? We're gonna
The,
need one open.
So 11.2 was the bond issue that was approved, and that included renovation of other city office buildings, the municipal court, other buildings at the city campus. It's possible that, what was said is, what Art said is correct. If all of that were issued, it would be $11.2 million additional on the tax rolls. It is, I think, possible that a portion of it could be issued for part of the project and not not issued for other parts, I suppose. But anyway, if all that work were done, yes, it would be an additional 11.2. Then,
So how much has been issued so far?
Zero.
Of that?
none of it's been sold.
None?
It's authorized, but it's not sold.
None of it, huh?
None.
So until it gets sold, we can't do any of that work.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, I'm curious, was any consideration given for multi-story parking? Like a parking garage? I
No.
live near the university and there are quite a few of them over there and they've got it, I mean, as far as land utilization, that's an excellent,
No, it was not considered. It was considered way too expensive.
oh, is that right?
And it's very expensive construction, and it was not considered.
Okay.
And again, we don't have any, other than the library design work that's underway, and it's not considered as part of the library project either, but in terms of multi-story parking garage, there's no final design at all, period. I mean, all we have are some shapes that you see on the paper, that's a footprint of a building. There's absolutely no building design done on any of these concepts. It just represents a total square foot amount of about 21,000 square feet, which is what we put together from our previous work when we went through the programming option idea at McFarland Church. All those ideas. And so that determined that we needed a building about that size to accommodate those programs. And so that number was used to create those, the shaded areas on the drawings there that you have. And beyond that, there's no design. And so, and I'll say, other than the parking lots are laid out specifically that you see, and that for obvious reasons, so we could count parking places.
Is the library a done deal?
Yes,
The land has been
Yes.
purchased, you own all that's taken care of?
yes, sir.
Okay, so
And it
that's
is
not even under
way
discussion.
down the road on the design table, probably past 60% or close to 60% complete.
So what we see on this drawing is the way it'll be?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you locate it on L4, I have two questions. How many people are going to have to be relocated? How many families? And are you going to locate or orient the senior center so that it works with the library, so that there's visibility and mixing together of both the groups that use the library and the senior center. Because when we got 645 signatures for a new senior center that's right back there, the main thing that people wanted was integration of the different age groups. That's what they wanted. They wanted people to be able to be mixing together.
I have no idea how many families, and I think it would depend on which option is selected.
Yeah.
Because each option requires a different number of residences to be removed, purchased and removed. I don't know what that number is, and I couldn't guess it on any option at this point. In terms of the orientation of the building, and let me back up a little bit on the previous, on the home sites. We understand, and I've heard, just like Art had said earlier, heard many times, the council is typically not gonna be willing to use the condemnation powers. Now, you may or not realize it, but there were 4 homes directly east of these, along Acres, that have been purchased and removed now for the library site. Those folks the owners of those houses were all willing sellers. And so it's possible that, I don't know, because we haven't talked to any of these people yet, but it's possible that these people that own the property that is involved in these L4 options are all willing sellers.
We've
And if
estimated
it
up
would
to
be,
33
then
people.
Sorry?
We've estimated up to 33 families that have to be moved.
Wow.
I have no idea.
Is that apartments included in that?
Yes.
Building?
Yes. I think it's a
It's sitting
condominium.
there.
I think it's a condo, and it has several different owners, I think.
Now, Art mentioned using part of Andrews Park. Is that a feasible option? And not having to do all that
Yeah.
on the north side of
Yes.
Acres?
And the Andrews Park site is one of the options, yes. That's not the site that was recommended to the council, but if it turns out that the council's not willing or not able to do the one of the L4 options, then I think that's a viable option.
Save displacing those people and having to do it for all
Sure,
that.
and don't know yet until we have those conversations, but if those folks that have those homes, or properties are willing to sell them, then it makes it a pretty, viable option.
On the other hand, you gotta pay for them,
Sure,
and Andrews Park is there, we don't have to pay for it.
that's correct, and those costs are estimated and part of the cost estimates for each option, purchasing those different properties. And you'll see, if you look through the cost estimates on those pages for each option, they're all a little bit different, because there's either more or less properties, or the Andrews Park site has some drainage issues that has to be dealt with, and they all have different needs and requirements that cost different amounts of money. But, hold on, Betty, just one second, and I'll answer this other question. The orientation of the building was talked about, and again, there's been no specific design of a building, but there were comments made that we would want to, whenever we got to that point, we would want to be sensitive to the design of the library and how the two buildings related to each other, because it would sort of make one complex, if you will, and they would need to relate to one another and be accessible to each other. And so those things are thoughts that are in mind already, and again, nothing specific in place, but I'm sure would be considered, absolutely would be considered.
Do you have a date when all this will start?
I don't, the library design is underway, as I said. I'm sorry, I don't have a date that construction is estimated to begin, but, I would be guessing, I don't wanna do that.
Okay.
Betty, I'm sorry.
Oh, you talked about their drainage issues, there are drainage issues, and the city needs to make sure they associate those drainage issues with the water plan, in the initial park plan, to not dump them on the cost to the senior center. The other point I wanna make, with the exception of L4C, I have not seen any parking setups that are really convenient to seniors, nor have I seen in any of them a proper unloading area of people who use walkers and wheelchairs covered for their safety, and enough handicap spots to actually accommodate seniors. So that's a very important part that is
I
really
appreciate
not
those
there.
comments. I think all of those are addressed in it's hard to see, but they have a
It's in here.
shaded or dotted line that represents a covered parking and, again,
Not adequate, not adequate.
okay, that's fine, but you understand what I've said many times is that the building has not been designed.
Good.
Okay, lots of hands. Go ahead.
Acre Street, Jane Garner to Berry Road. I have a little cliche, it's just a paved alley. James Garner
James
Boulevard.
Garner to Berry Road.
Berry Road,
doesn't
on
work.
Acres
They're
Street.
parallel, so James Garner to.
It goes west,
Rob-
Acres goes west.
Acres, okay, from James Garner, gotcha.
It's just a paved alley. Your utility lines, both telephone, gas, electric, are approximately 8 feet from the paved street or alley. You really have no entrance to the site from the west or east-west that would be adequate to handle any traffic whatsoever. What's gonna be the cost?
I guess I'm not following you. We have entries that line up with,
Acre Street's not big enough to handle, I'll make it simple, any traffic going
Yeah.
on. If you widen it, you're gonna be in people's back door.
Huber is the one that's.
we have access from the northwest, and access would line up
What do you mean?
straight across, straight north of, I think it's Park Street, which is on the west side of Andrews Park. It would go straight across Acres right into the site. And then also, access from the library side.
Is it true that James Garner Boulevard will be starting up at Robinson and going
To
southerly
Acres.
direction?
Go, yes,
Acres will be the first,
from Robinson
intersection.
to Acres, yes.
there'll be no
And-
other
and-
access to James Garner from Robinson down to Acres to get on Garner.
I don't think so. I think you're right.
No curb cuts.
Still wanna know the cost to try to get some flow east to west on Acres. There's something going on there currently, there's a little bit of utility identification. You're talking big money. And then you're gonna get into people's back doors if you're gonna open that up.
Okay, I made a note of your comment about Acres Street. I don't know how to respond to that.
I don't either.
Okay.
People are wondering why we don't want the library. A few of us. And the parking cannot be refigured to help people who cannot walk a great distance or who have, walking implements that they have to unload. They don't have any place to have a covered parking where, if you've been around town, you know there are people who drive themselves all over town. They get out, they have enough ability to walk around their car and take their wheelchair out themselves and take it in. We don't want those people to have to get out in the rain and walk around and take their wheelchair out and sit in that chair all day long in that wet chair. And the parking goes up for miles, seems like, at the end. And so that was our biggest objection to using the library at any time. The other thing I'm wanting to ask you, we took the idea of having the senior citizens building on the north part of that land, north of where the library is now, will be now. Is there a way maybe we could put something in there now, because no one is going to walk 2.5 blocks to the library. And as it's set up now, that parking lot goes 2.5 blocks away from it. Could we put senior citizens up there again?
On the north side of the library site?
Right, the new library, But that parking goes clear up to, past Hubert, up through, I don't remember the name of that street, the north street.
Highland Parkway.
I don't,
out of Park.
I'm gonna say I don't think so. I think we're too far down that road, in terms of the design of the library site and the parking. The other thing is, if I recall, earlier on, when we were looking at, for different senior sites, that north corner that you're talking about kind of goes up like the point of an arrow or a tip of a center of a pie shaped piece. It's a triangular piece, and it is just the size of it doesn't accommodate a building, and unless, if you get that far north, does that make sense? And so I think the consultants looked at trying to put something up there on that north end, and it just didn't fit, or didn't work. So it didn't become one of the L options.
What is north of that piece of land? Are there homes up there or something?
It's commercial or industrial type property, I think. Okay, yes, sir.
Not any of the other senior citizens, centers here in this area are 2-story tall. Was a single floor one ruled out for some reason?
No, what's proposed is a single story. All these proposals reflect a 21,000 square foot, single story building.
Okay.
Okay.
You just raised a point that I would like to add. Where those cisterns are, when they're removed, if we went with the Andrews Park site, couldn't you put a basement there where those cisterns have been? So essentially it would be a 2-story building, and you'd have protection for tornadoes with the basement. Isn't that a possible option?
I suppose it could be.
Just like to throw it out.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Once the site and configuration is decided on, will there have to be another bond issue vote to finance it?
Not sure yet. There's different, funding options that they're gonna look at. One of those, or at least one of those, would include another bond issue just for the project. I think there's other options that, they could consider, that would not require a bond election. I don't know, how to answer that yet. I just know that that's one of the alternatives.
Was there money already approved for redoing the old library?
Yes, that was.
Is that money legally transferable into
No.
a new library?
We don't think so. We got a preliminary response back through the city's bond council that didn't feel like, it felt like the language in the 2008 election was specific enough that the money had to be used in the existing building. Representative Virgin, I believe, has requested a formal opinion from the Attorney General on that question, and we haven't heard the answer back yet, other than the preliminary answer was probably.
What are the plans for the old library once they move out?
The plans are to do a portion of the building into city office space.
And the rest?
Well, the rest was, right now is be for the senior center on the old plan. If that isn't done, then that has to be determined. I don't know what it would be used for.
Good meeting.
Yes,
The Lowry room, the restrooms, the reception area, and the meeting rooms can all be still used for public meetings.
yeah, that's a need in the community. I think it's a good idea.
Do you have any kind of since I've been around the stormwater utilities and that, and the problems we have with stormwater, do you have an engineering report on the building? And what it's going to do, stormwater in relation to water? You're entering into a floodplain.
Yeah, you talking about the Andrews Park site?
Yeah, we're talking about Andrews Park.
We don't have an engineering study yet, no.
And then also where, I call it the little canal, and as it goes around underneath Main Street, that's a floodplain also.
Yes.
What's gonna be the impact of these buildings and the runoff?
The
How
site-
friendly are we going to be on the people that live around Main Street?
We would be expected, if the project were located at Andrews Park, it would be located such that it would not be in the floodplain. Part of the work that has to be done is to do grade, route some what now is above ground drainage, put it underground. And, that runs from the north to the south and dumps into that WPA channel that you're talking about. That still is in the 100-year floodplain. The project would be far enough north that it would not be in the 100-year floodplain. The project would also be expected, like all other projects, development projects, to contain and handle its stormwater runoff. So it would have to detain that, probably would be done under the parking lot area, so that it would be released at a controlled rate downstream, just like any other project would have to be.
You don't have any numbers on development?
No, there's been no engineering done, other than what it would take to get that northern fin-shaped piece removed from off of the FEMA floodplain maps. But there's been no specific engineering done, because that's not a selected site yet. Yes, sir.
Just one question, comment, back to the integration of the library and the senior center. At Midwest City, the library and the senior center are next to each other, but the library's back is on the senior center, and there is no integration, even though they adjoin each other.
Okay.
John, they need to serve, and I think Jody needs to make a couple of
No, it's
announcements.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sure, I guess we're gonna stop for a minute until you get your food, and then we can keep going.
They can eat while you're talking. but
Well,
they just need to serve.
Yeah, but we don't know who all is actually supposed to eat. I'm confused, like, cause
Yeah.
we don't know who's eating and who's not. So.
second one's supposed to eat in here.
Amen.
Okay, well, real quick,
That's why we're here.
yeah, real quick, I still have the pie list if y'all are still wanting to order the pies. We're gonna go next Thursday on the 3rd, and you can pick them up on the 4th, so, I have a list and everything here if y'all still wanna do that.
And I have one upstairs if you want to see.
They are the Fields pie, so if y'all remember from last year. Sandy, you and Wayne are gonna go down and get them, right? Okay, alright. Also, George, if a lot of y'all don't know who George is, he's like my supervisor, and he's been here for 19 years, and he taught me everything, so if you like me, then you'll love George. Anyways, he's retiring on the 31st, and they are doing like this big party at Moore, the Moore Center, on the 31st at 12:15, and it's at the Brand Center, 501 East Main in Moore. So, if y'all would like to go, you're more than welcome. It's a way bigger center than this, and a lot more room and stuff, but
Yeah.
it'd be a lot of fun.
You
So,
guys go look at their center.
yeah.
City, you could do the same thing here. Exactly.
Okay, Glenda, hold on. Okay, hold on, Glenda. And then these potatoes that are sitting over here, they are, the ones that are by the tree, they're up for grabs. So if y'all still are wanting potatoes, y'all can take those, as well. By the tree. Oh, and there's two under there? Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and do prayer so we can go ahead and serve. Anybody wanna volunteer to do prayer?
Where's Mary?
Where's Mary?
Mary's sick.
She's sick.
Well,
Mary's not on.
Dawn, would you like to do prayer?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Lord, bless this food that we're about to receive and help us get a good center, a good spot for our center, where everything can go in there. In your son's name I pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Dawn.